else, uh, Mr. Gallen, and all the guests here, all the returning 10 tribes representatives that you all are. Uh, by the Almighty's grace, uh, He has led me to discover my identity way back way back in the 60s. So I have, by His grace, some seniority in no, in my own life now, um, that I've been introduced to the 10 tribes principles and where they're at and their characteristics. And lately, for quite some time now, we'll talk about that. Not today, but I have a major presentation about that. Within the regathering, there's a small group. I call them the vanguard, the pioneers. At this vanguard, this pioneer small group in the gathering, the Almighty is doing it. Notice, not I am, not anybody else, not Yair, nobody. We are all in the Almighty's regathering of Israel. And before Mashiach comes, this small group will be active in the regathering according to the Almighty's plan. And this plan has been revealed to us. Now we'll share some of that. Not today, that's more, I need to prepare for that. I'll say a few things about it, but not the major address. I will need a whole big a chunk of time for that. That small group is called the remnant of Israel. And it's a remnant in Yehuda, and there's a remnant in the 10 tribes. And we are both charged by the Almighty to do our share of the latter day work. I say latter day, in the latter days of this era. Before not just to ask questions, but to contribute by what the Almighty has revealed to us. A lot of that is in our calling. Sharon says she has a Gadite background, asking for any tikkun about Gad that needs to do, any correction. And all these things help us, all of us, because what we're going to be sharing are a prophetic nature. They're bits and pieces of the prophetic message the Almighty has given us. And what I mean by us is the returning 10 tribes. Of course, to Yair as well, he represents Yehuda, and the Almighty has revealed an awful lot of things to him. I want to comment on that and Rabbi Akiva and what some other rabbis have said and are still saying. The curse in the Torah upon Israel, the curse phrase in the teaching is concerning the covenant, that if you leave this covenant, there was to be blessings if you keep the covenant, all kinds of blessings that the Almighty wants us to live up to, because we have a divinely assigned message as messenger to all the other children of the Almighty, that we are to teach them when we will have graduated from this teacher training that we've been in thousands of years. And the curse is that if you leave this covenant, meaning if you leave this contract, basically, it's a contract you agreed to, that you're going to be my servant. You're going to live according to the Torah, and you're going to teach this Torah to all the other children of the Almighty. Then you'll become under a punishment, a great big punishment, all kinds of punishment that you're not going to come out of till the latter days. So the 10 is said, if you leave this covenant, if a person or a family or a clan or a tribe, notice, large sections of Israel, leave this covenant, then I will erase your name. you will forget who you are. If you want to be like the Goyim, like the nations, guess what? That's the punishment on it. You will forget your name, and I will cast you out of the land of the covenant to which you agreed that you're going to live into and be my witnesses. I'm going to cast you out to be among the Goyim, and I'm not going to call you back till that sentence is up. So now we're bringing Yehuda. Yehuda was veiled from finding out where the 10 tribes are. Now, some few have known where they are at, and Yair tracks those bits and pieces of information, but some rabbis throughout history knew where the 10 tribes were generally. But most of Yehuda was not to know anything about the 10 tribes, basically not much, if anything, because they were not to look them up and not to gather them, because they were under a sentence of punishment in the prison houses of the Goyim. The prison houses are mentioned in Ezekiel 37. So that's the reason rabbis don't know, or they have erroneous information or ancient information that's not too exact, that's really, really old. They basically know they went this way and they disappeared. All right, and they have all kinds of myths and legends about them, but the up-to-date information has been revealed only to a very, very few. And those that have known in the past, those rabbis, their information is now coming to the fore because there is going to be a joining of the two sticks. So it's coming back bits and pieces. Now, Yair has been given a big piles of other information. So that's my comment on Rabbi Akiva. Now, this sentence is going to be up soon. How do we know that? Because all the guests here, myself included, have been released from the Valley of Dry Bones in Ezekiel 37. And the Valley of Dry Bones are the 10 tribes who are spiritually dead, because the punishment for idolatry was death in the Torah. So many have died when the Assyrians emptied out the lands, the areas of the 10 tribes, and they disappeared basically from history, general history of the world, and to Judah herself. They didn't know what happened to them. But we have been released for a reason. Have you ever thought about it? No, those of us here. Why has the Almighty really called you? Why has the Almighty released you? Why are you out of those prison houses? Why did He let you out of this? All right, there is a reason. And the reason is mentioned in Isaiah 10. Now, what I'm going to tell you is not that I've dug this up. I have not dug it up. The Almighty has revealed that to me in the last 30 years. And I won't get into that, how I did it. Just scriptures flashed in my mind. I wrote them down for 30 years. And I didn't understand what they were. I will tell you what they were in a little while. So this is one of them. If you turn to Isaiah 10, mark it down, Isaiah 10, it says, verse 21, the remnant shall return. And I could start 20, sorry, I started too early. A remnant shall return. It shall come to pass in that day, notice as a particular day, that the remnant of Israel, of such as are escaped, notice, these are escapees of the house of Jacob, shall no more again stay upon them that smote them, but shall stay upon the Lord, L-O-R-D, that's the Almighty, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. So they're going to return in truth. That means the Almighty is going to correct them about what is true and what is not true, of what they inherited and espoused in those prison houses. Okay? The remnant shall return, even the remnant to Jacob, unto the mighty God. For here it comes. Listen to this, verse 22. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. Now, it doesn't say that they're going to be the only one return. All of Israel shall return, as it says in Amos. But these are the remnant who return first. They're going to be the vanguard. They're going to be the pioneers because the Almighty has a job for them to do. not only are they called to return to him personally, but they are to do a particular task, a big task, as the Almighty's special servants. A very small group, very, very small. And this is going to happen in the latter days. The latter days, they will see the whole world in upheaval, the 10 tribes nation, especially because the dark forces are against them. And also, frankly, because they will be punished as well. The Almighty says that when he will punish the nations of the world in the latter days, in the day of the Lord mentions, he says, I will not destroy you, talking to Israel, but I will not leave you altogether unpunished, because we have gone so far away from the Almighty that some will not return till they find themselves in the foxholes and they cry out to the Almighty for mercy. All right, so let's go back to Isaiah, what Isaiah says. Isaiah also says something that the 10 tribe returnees need to do. If you turn to Isaiah 58, turn to Isaiah 58, and it says, verse 12. Write it down, Isaiah 58, so you can study this on your own. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places, and thou shalt raise up the foundations. Notice what? The foundations of many generations, and you shall be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the paths to dwell in. So they got to repair the breach and restore the paths to dwell in and build the old waste places, the foundations of many generations. It's a bit complex, and I'll get into it in a future presentation. I'm going to get into it, but basically the summary of it is that just as Yair mentioned, there was going to be a break between the brotherhood of Yehuda and Israel, the 10 tribes. There's also a break between the Almighty, our connection to the Almighty, because we left the covenant, and that breach will have to be repaired. Why? Because the path that we left, the path is the path of the Torah, that has been broken by us. We have abandoned it, we have left it, we have refused it, and we have had contempt for it. That is the great sin of the 10 tribes. This is why they have lost their names. This is why they have been cast into prison houses for a great big sentence that will not be up till the latter days. That sentence will have to be served out. There is no return of that for good behavior. God says, till the end of days, that's when you're going to be let loose out of this. Now, let's get back to the remnant. What is the remnant to do? If you turn to Isaiah, let's see, I'm turning to it. Hold on. I marked it here in my Bible. Isaiah 58, it's waste places. Okay. It says again, go to Jeremiah 6. Jeremiah 6. It says, thus says the Lord, verse 16. Jeremiah 6, verse 16. Thus says the Lord, stand in the ways and see, ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and you shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. So this message has gone out to the 10 tribes before, but we have refused, we have refused, we have refused. And this time in the latter days, when the remnant is let out, okay, the great majority of 10 tribes, they refuse. We're not going to do it. A few have returned in the times of Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, and a few others, but most of them have not returned, absolutely refused it. But in the latter days, the remnant will restore this path of return to Almighty. And this is the path that will have to be built. I'm going to read you where this is mentioned. Hold a second, I wrote it down here. See if I can get up here. If you turn to Isaiah 57, verse 14, and it shall be said, now, by who? By the Almighty, it's implied. Build up, prepare the way, take up every stumbling block out of the way of my people. And it's Isaiah 57. Another translation says, build it, clear away, remove all the obstacles out of the way of my people. So it's mentioned other places as well, that this road needs to be rebuilt. And who's going to rebuild it? The remnant. This is the road building remnant who will rebuild the road of return for the 10 tribes, right? So we have an enormous job to do. How are we going to do that? According to Almighty's instructions, and I'll get into that, but it gives very specific instructions about that, what we need to do. It gives it to the leadership of the 10 tribes. I want to tell you about an analogy that building this road will have to be done in times of war. When the dark forces war against the Almighty and his people, Israel, and the 10 tribes, the general chaos, wars all over the world, dominating the politics every day. There is an analogy of this from World War II. Notice, World War II, war among the nations, chaos and death, destruction. There was a very small contingent of volunteers. Notice, not enlistees, volunteers in the U.S. Navy.
Okay.
The U.S. Navy went out to gather people to serve in a small division of the U.S. Navy. They were called the CBs, the letter C and letter B. And the CB stands for Construction Battalion. They were to build things. They were sent out into the Pacific under fire where the Japanese were dug in already and fortify the beaches so landing crafts or smooth amount landing crafts come in and airplanes could land in.
CBs.
Yes, the CBs. These were called the CBs. And when did they do this? Under fire. So that is what we're going to have to do in the latter days as a remnant. This is like a rebirth of the CBs in the latter days.
Okay.
And I would say I have a whole bunch of things to say about that. I will be addressing a bunch of the latter days leadership in the 10 tribes.
Okay, so Steve, you'll do that in the next episode. You'll continue, God willing.
Yeah, God willing, I'll continue. What I like to ask here, as everybody who is here as guests, send me your emails. It's because I like to get in touch with you because there'll be lessons on this that I will not give on these presentations, but just lessons to the remnant. All right. So send me an email. Write this down. S for that's my first name, Steve. Mathe, that's like math with an E on it. Get it? SMATHE at D, like in David, S like in Susan, L like in Larry, DSL Extreme, EXTREME.com. Mathe at DSLExtreme.com. Now contact you because there'll be lessons about it. Because notice when you volunteer or when you enlist in the armed forces, you have to go to boot camp because you don't know what to do. Okay, so I'll finish with this presentation now. I'm asking you to look up Psalm 83 if you have not done that. We are already in the opening of the great wars against Israel and also around the world where the Hamas and the enemies of Israel will attack Israel in a terrible way, and it will propagate out into the world. It was a revelation to me personally and to all the returning 10 tribes.
Okay.
So I close this presentation now, and hopefully see you next time. And please, all the guests, please be sure to get in contact with me.
Okay.